All right. Well, here we go. Sort of first video for L2k. I know phase one kind of capped right at the beginning of all the current chaos. So let's talk about phase two. At this point, you've all submitted sort of your phase one papers, and we've got to continue moving on with R&D. Um, Overall, again, this is another the project is basically what you make of it. So I'm going to give some sort of general guidelines, but if your project is very different, that's fine. You can kind of tell me what you want your phase two to be ultimately. All right, so let's go through some of this. I did have a few issues with Word, so we tried, PowerPoints. We tried uploading stuff. We'll see if things took well or not. Okay, so phase two. Ideally, with phase one, that was basically like, what do you need to do to get started? Okay, some people were already able to dive into like building prototypes. They were maybe just testing out early components. Some people were doing research papers for their project. It depends if you're going more engineering or science. Whatever your phase one is fine. That's why you built the rubric and you kind of set your own targets. I can't tell you exactly what to do because you've chosen this project. It's going to vary quite a bit for everybody. Again, if you're on the more engineering side of things, we should have a rough plan of where we're going to be going, and now you're going to try and start to build some of that. You don't necessarily have to. Again, you might have been all research for your phase one, and that's totally okay. That's not a problem. Again, maybe you've built out prototypes or you've done, you might have already done sort of your first iteration of an experiment. That's all fine. Whatever your phase one is has been approved, so that's good to go. Phase two is ultimately going to be like, what do you need to do to go further from here? Do you have data from phase one that you need to take and then recycle back and iterate upon? Do you need to actually kind of build the thing that you've set out after collecting a whole bunch of work, or like making mocks or drafts of what that looks like? Whatever it is, it's basically what's your next step. You know where your end target is when you do your presentation. Like, you want to have sort of a working project that shows, hey, we've gone out and we've done some research and development, and we set a research question that we tried to answer, and here's our attempt to answer that. Hopefully, regardless of how you've approached this, your phase two should have some sort of physical building component. Some people I know have already been testing stuff. Like, I know my energy drink people have been doing things with, they've already tried extracting caffeine. Maybe now they're getting to the point where they're actually figuring out how to make that sort of fully soluble and usable. Maybe if you're sort of the go-kart team, you've done a bunch of sourcing of material, but like you haven't really been able to construct your sort of full one yet. Maybe you have a small scale draft of what you think this go-kart's going to look like. Those are both fine. Okay. What's your next step to move forward from here? Kind of go from your first iteration working towards your final project. That's what we want to get you to. Engineering process, because most people are on this sort of thing. Again, I'll come back to some science at the end here for a few people. We've covered some of this, and it's worth kind of going back through some of these sort of things later. Consider where you are, and a lot of your paper for this is going to be telling me where in this process you are and how you're approaching some of these sort of steps here. Iteration is huge. This basically, come up with an idea, figure out why you think it should work, build something, test and run it, and then recycle back again until we get a better and better product and you finally answered your ultimate sort of research question. Okay? All right. As you're doing this, whatever your phase two is, evaluate these sort of four components, because this is really what you're going to kind of mostly build your phase two paper out of as well. You're going to also develop another rubric for me, which again, you're basically setting your own target just to hit. Okay. What I mean by design are how, like, if I had to basically follow or pick up wherever you left off, what information could you give me that I could try and kind of continue to build from? Process is going to be a little bit more meta level analysis of where you're at in terms of these engineering and scientific processes. And it's worth going back and pausing the video later. Like, you can see some of those, the slides will also be on Google Classroom, so you can kind of look through that. I don't need to read through all that stuff again for you. I do want to know about sort of the teamwork. Tell me sort of what that's going on, how you've split sort of workload, what things are sort of working well, and how you've maybe overcome some challenges with all this. What's your current timeline look like based on where you're at as of, I guess, last night? I bet everyone probably took a little bit of a earlier morning for this with papers due last night, and that's fine. What do you need to basically set in your phase two, which again is a target that you are choosing to get there on time? Ideally, by the end of phase two, everybody has like the earliest version, like beta test of your product in some form. It can vary a little bit. Like I'm thinking, like my go-kart people, you might not be all the way there. You might have by the end of phase two your individual systems working, but not necessarily a full like get in it, buckle in, go-kart. Okay. Energy drink people or energy bar people or things like that, or sort of plant people, ideally we have like sprouting buds or something that is like edible and palatable. Um, it might not be your favorite flavor, or maybe your first round of an energy bar is, let's just say, very dense, or you bite into it and it turns to chalk. All right, go back, recycle through that process. How can we make some adjustments for some of these things? Okay. Your phase two paper is going to basically tell me kind of where you're at, right? I'm not getting to see some of this in class. You're basically writing a paper to update me on these sort of things. Um, I know this is a weird, hard time. Okay, it's not how probably anyone wanted to end the school year. So consider all of these different pieces. Like, how strictly are you adhering to timelines that you guys are setting? I know with logs and stuff, people will sometimes wait until that night or day before and be like, I can sit down and slam this sort of stuff out. This is going to be a harder one. There's ideally more work that's going into that than a log, at least for that sort of 3-week cycle. Don't wait until the end. Call out your teammates if they're not getting the stuff they need to done. Number two, this continually evaluate the process. Again, as you're going through that meta level analysis, you looking outside of how is your project going, what steps are you at, and what things are working and not. I want to know about that. Again, I know balancing everything with basically sourcing different materials and maybe trying to like do these weird dead drops in parks so that you can maintain social distancing of materials and stuff is tricky if you're trying to pass stuff off, or if you're trying to recreate the exact same sort of thing in very different like houses and scenarios. I get it. Use all the technology available to you, right? Like pass on. I mean, however you do that, that's fine. Okay. I know it's tricky, but we're fortunate that as a society, we're pretty well connected at this point in 2020. So what I'm gonna need for phase two, I want a draft of your phase two report, or sorry, your rubric for your phase two report by Sunday. Send me an email and please include all group members on there. You can just throw them in the CC column. Ideally, then that way Monday I'm able to kind of go through and knock off all of those sort of things, give my first round of feedback. It might not change too much from your phase one. I would say use your phase one rubric, see what things need to adjust, because we're trying to get to a point where you now have like a physical product of some form that you could kind of show off and display, or like prove, yes, we have actually done the thing we're trying to do. I'm going to ask for some maybe a few changes here or there, and then I'll ask for ideally that final one to be completed by Wednesday the 29th. And then the following week after that is where your phase two report is due. Ideally on Turnitin. I know there were some issues with it last night. I saw sort of a frantic stream of emails come in real late, so thanks for just kind of working through that. I appreciate the flexibility. Again, I got a list of things down there that I want you to basically tell me about, and then let's make certain we include sort of APA stuff somewhere. I could see maybe a combination of some of these sort of things, like if you had design, and then like you folded modifications in there, and then like calendar and timeline modifications got wrapped into one. I do sort of want that mechanics column. If we're doing another 4-column rubric again, please. I can re-upload that sort of blank template, but if you have one that you already got liked and worked, and parts of it have already been approved and you don't think they need to change, copy that again, change the title to phase two, make the smallest tweaks you have to, and then pass it on, and we can kind of go from there. Again, come back to this if you need to. The slides will be up so you can kind of look through. If you're doing more of an engineering-based product, kind of tell me where you're at. And it might be that you're at sort of multiple steps, or maybe you're at this cycling through where you're trying something, it doesn't work, and then making adjustments. I just want to know kind of what's going on. When I say evaluate, where is it? where in the process you are, that's what I'm looking for. Okay, is tell me some of that stuff. If yours is a little more scientific, kind of use some of these things as guidelines for where you're at, just so I have an idea of what you're doing. And a last request, we're not able to meet in person, obviously, right now. I'm missing some of the collaborative nature of this class and how that would look and function normally. You're not really aware of probably what your classmates are doing. And I, again, can only sort of, at this point, I have your phase one reports to read through to kind of get some information. What I'm going to ask is if you can all take some just quick videos showing sort of what you've done, you as an individual. Don't worry about editing. Don't do multiple takes. Just like one shot, go right for it. And I want to see what you're doing. Once I've got all those, you can just email them to me and share it. I'll make a big old folder on Drive and link that on Classroom. So if you want to pop in and just see what your classmates are working on, feel free. I know we have some ideas that are, well, it's not required. Please do it. But if you don't, I'm not going to get super angry. But I want to know what you're doing. I want to see sort of a visual of some of this stuff. Show off what you've done so far. Okay. You might draw some ideas and inspiration from other groups. Maybe they're doing something similar, or they found a cool workaround to a problem that your group is having. I don't know what any of that sort of stuff's going to look like. So just if you could, I'm not super worried about length. I don't want obviously like big 10-minute sort of videos. Can you give me like a quick 30 seconds of like, hey, this is our overall project. We're trying to build an energy drink that runs on go-karts and grows plants based off of collecting solar energy or whatever. I'm mixing four groups there, just so that everybody has an idea of like what they're going to kind of see on those presentations. Okay. So that's what I'd ask of you. If there's anything you need, please, please, please reach out. I'm going to go back to this guy just to finish. Send me a draft of your phase 2 rubric, which probably won't change too much, really. It might not even change at all. Again, you're setting sort of your phase 2 target. We should be getting some sort of physical product, like the earliest version of you trying to answer whatever sort of your research question is, that you could say, hey, here's our first attempt. It's probably not going to be the best, and that's okay. Embrace those mistakes and tell me about them, right? If something goes terribly wrong, I want to know about that. That's an okay thing. It's not like you have to hide that and be like, put on this face of everything is perfect and great. If something goes wrong, I want to know how you work through it. That's way more exciting than just everything was perfect and great. Like, it's not a Disney movie, right? That's okay. If you got questions, reach out and ask. I'm looking forward to getting to those papers. Just sort of an update on grading things. I'm hoping to basically knock out log 3 for group C, because I got through A and B earlier and then all this chaos hit within the next day or two. Then I'll get to those, probably the phase 1 reports before book reviews, just because I want to get some feedback on that so that you have, again, an idea of what target you're aiming for in terms of how this grading is going to go for phase 2. Your phase 3 is kind of going to be, again, another project level that you determine, but you don't have to do a paper. We're just going to have to find some way to deal with a presentation and show off what you've been working on this whole time. I hope everyone's staying well, safe, and healthy. If you've found any cool creative workarounds for, I don't want to say boredom in quarantine, but just how to maintain continual life, let me know. I was hearing some interesting things about people's attempts to do swimming or other exercise, or just even stay in touch with friends in a way that felt more organic and typical to how their class or day-to-day ran. Let me know. With that, thank you. I look forward to reading some of this stuff here soon.